Mr. Jaitley, it's seeming like a U-turn of sorts. Do you have the Congress party on board as far as the insurance bill goes? Why are they suddenly demanding it should go back to standing committee?
Well, it's a very good question addressed to the wrong person. Only 10 days ago, the Congress party stood up in the budget discussion in Parliament and said this 49% in insurance is our idea. And they told me in Hindi, Der aaye drust aaye, aapko achhi samajh mein aayi ab. So that means you've borrowed our wisdom. Well, I don't mind they wanted to take the credit. But suddenly I find that they want to go to a select committee now. Today I have put 3 suggestions in the alternative to them. The first is, since it was your own bill, approve the bill. The second is, if you've forgotten your own wisdom, then you oppose the bill and defeat it, provided you have reasons for it. And my third suggestion is that if you think there's something wrong with the language, because I have exactly borrowed Mr. Chidambaram's language, and if you think his language was defective, please correct it. Yeah. Now there is no fourth option. The fourth option is we have no reason, but we would still like to delay it. And delay it for some collateral purpose. We don't want this to be passed, as one of their spokesmen said, till Mr. Modi goes to Washington. If they have reasons of this kind, I can't help it. And I think all other political parties, wiser counsel will prevail, and they'll realize not to fall a trap into a game of this kind. Now the Constitution is very clear, Article 108. If the 2 houses disagree, it can go to a joint session. Additionally, if one of the houses indefinitely delays it for a period of 6 months, even then it goes to a joint session. Therefore, they can do it to one bill. They can't do it all along, because if one house, because we don't have a majority in that house, they want to delay it, then there is a constitutional mechanism which is there on how to deal with it. And in future, we'll deal with it in that manner. I hope we don't have to go so far.
So if you don't, you must have spoken to the other political parties. For example, the Biju Janata Dal is on board. What are the others, if I were to talk about AIADMK?
Well, we are speaking to each one of them. And we are requesting each one of them to support this bill, because this will bring a lot of capital into a investment-starved sector whose growth is good for the economy.
But the NCP, for example, has said it's coming on board. So can you tell us which are the other political parties? For example, the SP and the BSP may not publicly agree that they agree with the bill. So what kind of a feedback are you getting?
Well, we are speaking to everyone, as I said.
So as of now, do you think it will go to a joint session, or do you think it will pass?
I don't want to make a prediction. I hope wiser counsel prevails within the Congress party, and they realize that since they were the ones who had initially pioneered the bill, there's no reason why they should stop it.
Last week, we saw a fantastic economic data that had come out. The core sector growth, 7.3% in the month of June. What are your predictions as far as GDP goes now?
Well, I don't want to make a prediction, but I can tell you the initial indications of turning around had started. If you look at a lot of sales from auto sector to consumable durables during June and July, they've picked up substantially. The core sector has picked up substantially. I read the HSBC index. It shows some encouragement. It's a 17-month high. It shows some element of encouragement. It's too early to make a final determination.
We've had economists on the channel who are now suddenly talking about, 5.5 to 5.9% GDP being clocked in this fiscal. Would you share that enthusiasm?
Well, I think there is a revival of interest in India. The world is again looking at us. The investors are making inquiries. And people want us to go ahead with the reform process. I would like doggedly to only pursue one course. At times it may be slow, but the direction should only be in one course. That's the policy of the government. And I hope if we are able to do that, we'll be able to create the necessary environment for a growth process. That's what the government is supposed to do through policy. And I get a feeling that the revival process has just about started.
So do you think we could end between 5.5% to 6%?
Well, I don't want to confine myself to numbers. My initial reports encouraged me slightly. I'm still keeping my fingers crossed.
Rating agencies are going to start visiting you this week. What is going to be the pitch that India is likely to make?
Well, the pitch is that we want to grow. We'll take all possible steps despite several constraints in our political system. And I think this should create an element of enthusiasm even amongst the rating agencies.
One of the major criticisms made by rating agencies was to do with the retro tax. You addressed that in your budget by saying a high-level committee will be set up. But when is that likely? Do we know who the members are going to be as yet?
You see, I have said more than once, A, this government doesn't intend using retrospective tax. For the past cases, if any notice is to be issued, it will come to the CBDT, which will peruse it, and therefore we've put a kind of embargo on creating fresh disputes on the basis of the old legislation, effectively making it prospective rather than retrospective. And thirdly, as far as the pending disputes under the old law are concerned, those pending disputes will be sorted out through the judicial process where they are pending.
But when will this committee be set up? The expenditure committee is another committee that has to be set up.
We are very soon setting up the Expenditure Management Commission. That's the committee to be set up. We are sending it up. And as far as the retrospective tax is concerned, it will be a committee set up within the CBDT. So therefore, no fresh notice to be issued till that committee is consulted.
Is it too early to ask you who will be part of the Expenditure Management Commission?
Well, I'm in the process of finalizing the names.
Today, we also saw the SEBI bill being tabled. When you went through the fine print, we noticed that some of the powers that had been envisaged for the regulator have been diluted. For example, the seizure one. Why is that the case?
And I'll tell you the reason. Under the original SEBI Act, if SEBI wants to search a premises anywhere in the country, it has to go to the court within that jurisdiction. So if it searches 500 premises, it has to go to 500 courts. That was a bad situation. The bill envisaged that SEBI alone could decide to search anybody. It doesn't have to go through a court. That meant with a huge parliamentary opposition. So I have now smoothened that procedure. There'll be one designated court in Mumbai. And every time the SEBI wants to search a premises anywhere in India, it takes the permission from that one court in Mumbai after showing it the prima facie material. So there is no harassment that SEBI faces of going to 500 different courts. At the same time, the SEBI doesn't have limitless powers. It has to satisfy a court that a search is necessary.
But retrospectively, can also call for records prior to 1998. That's something that obviously is...
No. You see, in case it is within the jurisdiction of the SEBI, it certainly can call for any record. Why not? This amendment is against Ponzi schemes. And why should SEBI not be entitled to call records of Ponzi schemes?
Fair enough. I want to just finish by asking you, as far as the daunting challenge of fiscal deficit target goes of 4.1%, are you on track to meet it?
Well, the daunting challenge is a daunting challenge, but I'm sure we'll reach it.
Divestment will be very important in that. When are we going to see the start?
Well, in the next few days, you will see, because some activity with regard to some of the limited PSU shares has begun.
So, Coal India likely to be the first one along with the PSP bank?
They are appointing their advisors and the bankers, etc. So the procedures are going on, and very soon the disinvestment department will start offloading some shares.
And PSU banks obviously feature quite heavily in this?
That will be the next stage. That is not a part of the disinvestment which is envisaged in the first package itself. The banks will be disinvested, maintaining a minimum of 51% for the purposes of those funds being used for recapitalization of the banks itself.
Is ONGC part of the first bucket? Because they're...
Please wait for it.
Thank you, sir.